Hey subscribers, welcome to a review of last week's stop motion battle 6 of season 6, and pretty excited that it's getting to this stage because it's all about this cavern, this castle in the middle of this demon world, and that's really where the bulk of this season sort of is fleshed out. And I'm just getting to the stage where everyone's about to get to there. So this is a review of last week's battle where there's a battle outside this actual castle cave area. Let me just explain what's happened. So I've just finished deploying everybody and made the introduction for this battle. So in this battle we've had our crew, our party of, well, it's 9 at the moment I think, but they're all trundled up in this tower here, which is just outside the cave entrance to the Myth Drea'Voor. So anyway, what we've got here is we've got a Nrgle army that's converged at this area. I'll cover those guys individually in a minute. And we've got a Slaanesh army over this side. So basically everyone's drawn to the front of this section, anticipating the Ancient One who's buried beneath this planet. So what we had here is we had our dueling Slaanesh and Treeman, who's an Age of Sigmar character, basically fight across this board, came into the middle, and there was an aircraft, an Inquisition aircraft coming from the previous narrative video. They're sort of duking it out, and out comes a Death Nagash, is it? Can't remember his exact name. Age of Sigmar character. I don't play Age of Sigmar that much, but I'm using a lot of characters in this season, trying to converge 40k and some of the 30k and Age of Sigmar as well. So he comes charging outside of this tower, this cave. He confronts these two combatants here and says, follow me, basically. I haven't actually written the words for that yet, but I'll do that shortly. So they follow him back in here. Meanwhile, these guys in the tower, basically hiding, so looked out the window and saw all this and went, no way I'm going out there. And they just basically hide inside there. So these armies, so just having a quick look at the armies, we've got a Soul Grinder up here who blew up the Custodes Land Raider. We've got a combination of Plague Marines, Plague Bearers. We've got a Great Unclean One, Dreadnought. We've got Typhus there, and we've got some more Marines over this side. Got a Rhino stacked full of guys. I forgot to mention that we've got quite a bit in reserves here. That's our characters, which I'll get to later. That's the blown up Land Raider. We've got a couple of units of Slaanesh Marines there. Over this side, excuse me. We've got some drones ready to come down later on. We've got some more Marines, Terminators. Actually, these Marines are inside a Rhino. And we've got some Jump Pack Marines. Also, we've got some Terminators, an Obliterator up the back. And forget about this guy. These guys are all part of the storyline element, which I'm pretty much done with at this stage. So moving back over here, we've got a Predator tank. Got another Soul Grinder. More Chaos Demons of the Nrgle variety. Over this side of the board, we've got different types of Marines. I'll just give you a quick look at these as we move on. Got a Rhino there full of Marines. Again, got a Demon Prince just sitting there. And tons and tons of Demonettes. Another Soul Grinder just here. Another Dreadnought, Predator. Then we've got some cavalry for the Demonettes. Another Dreadnought in the middle. Up the other side we've got a the graded demon of Slaanesh, keeper of secrets, I think. Demonettes, bikers, and mounted demonettes on seekers, I think they're called. So we've got a chaos versus chaos slugfest in front of our major storyline component, which is the ruins of Myth Drea'Voor. Can't wait to get inside there because I've got lots of labyrinth type things to walk through, and it's just going to get very exciting in my mind anyway. Alright, there we have it. That's the introduction to Battle 6. We'll have turn 1 coming up shortly. Hey subscribers, welcome to the first part of turn 1, and I have just tried a different camera for doing these videos. I've moved away from using this guy here, that there, and I've just gone to use my phone, which is Samsung S9. So I'm going to see how this turns out, see if we can get some good pictures of what's going on. So not really a lot's happening in this first part of turn 1. We've had Nrgle have their turn, and we've had Soul Grinder basically come out from behind this tower here, moving up the board like that. We had Plague Bearers leading the charge. Slow as they are, they'll probably slow things down, but nonetheless they're out the front, ready to take some fire when that comes from the Slaanesh side. We've got everything else basically moved up here. We've got the Great Unclean One hiding inside, well, not inside, but amongst all the units around it, just to keep it in cover of some sorts. You'll have to forgive the camera work, I'm just getting used to doing this. Hopefully it comes out a little bit better, as I said. And we had this group, Spawn and Soul Grinder, etc., move up this side of the board. So not really a lot. It doesn't look like there's a lot of Nrgle compared to this Slaanesh side. There's a lot over that side, but we've got a whole heap in reserve over here, ready to come out at some stage. So that's really just a bit of an experiment with the camera. Hopefully they get some better shots as we run around the board. We'll see how it works, and second half of turn 1 coming up shortly. Right, second half of turn 1, and the Slaanesh side have basically moved across the board. There hasn't been a lot of shooting or casualties. Probably the major area is the Soul Grinder here. Had a shot at the Chaos Spawn, which is leading the charge for the Nrgle side. We also had some fire from the Rhino there, just moving close to the spawn and not taking it out. There was also some fire from this unit of Marines. You'll have to bear with me with my camera work, because I'm just going to try a few just some new things, a few extra close-ups. So we had these groups here, these Marines and this Rhino basically move up into position. Everything else moving across the board. There was no firing from the Dreadnought here or the Predator. Basically they're just taking a position behind this rocky area here. All these demons, cavalry here, just coming up through the middle of the board. The idea is to try and race to the middle and get stuck into those guys. They're not too concerned about cover really, because there's not a lot on this side that can really fire. We've only got long range Predator here, Dreadnought maybe, and there's still a few deep strikers, but they'll no doubt come behind enemy lines. Just moving across this side, we've got bikers charging out in the front. Also got the cavalry, the demonettes, mounted demonettes, carrying out the front, ready to try and engage what they can. And that's really about it. So just trying to get a close-up of some of these things. for you to have a look at. So that's the demon's turn for Slaanesh. Now what I'm going to try and do is in the storyline component, I'm going to have both armies kill each other, and I'm going to have everyone come out of the tower and basically sneak into the cave just there. So that's going to happen later in the battle, which you would have seen last week. Anyway, so that's the second half of turn 1. We'll have turn 2 and a bit of carnage coming up shortly. Right, here we are at the end of the first half of turn 2, and I'm really looking forward to having this battle over and done with, to be honest. And the reason is that my dungeon setup, which is just through that door there, is all pretty much ready to go, so I can't wait to get into that. So that will be in the coming battles to come, so looking forward to getting through these. Anyway, it is Nrgle's turn. We had the spawn here come charging up onto this rocky area and took out 2 Slaanesh Marines. Sitting there fairly well exposed, sitting up there, it's been shot at a few times, and no doubt it's going to get taken down at some stage by various firepower that's close by. We had deep striking Nrgle Marines, Havocs. I think the Havocs are the heavy weapon ones. Can't remember. Raptors. Someone will pick me up on it. Anyway, Jetpack Space Marines of the Chaos Rite came down, shot one guy in the back, as you do if you're Chaos. Moving over this side, we had Plague Bearers plodding their way across the board. Didn't do anything, just hiding behind their spawn, waiting to come surging out at some stage. Soul Grinder sat here behind that rock trying to get some cover, which is really not offering it much cover, but it fired and wounded the other Soul Grinder on the other side. We had Rhino following up with Marines. They basically came from behind this little shrine here, came around the other side, and are basically sitting there ready to take on everyone else. The Predator at the back here hasn't really got a shot off yet. It's really at the back, but hopefully next turn it'll get a go. Everything else basically moved up across the board, including that Dreadnought there. And we had the Soul Grinder on the other side, managed to make its way into combat with some of these steeds for the Slaanesh side. So took out 3, good job. So looking fairly exposed there with all those Slaanesh forces just there. That's how it is. Alright, so we didn't have too many casualties that turn. We only had 3 or 4 on the Slaanesh side, and no doubt there's going to be a heap of casualties on the Nrgle side. That is coming up shortly. We've got the second half of turn 2 just round the corner. Here we are, end of the second half of turn 2, and the Slaanesh army have advanced across the board and taken out some key characters and units for the Nrgle side. So let's have a quick look over this side of the board. Firstly, there was 5 of these jump pack Nrgle monstrosities that touched down just behind this rock here. This unit here, and this unit, and the Predator there, all fired in there and took out 3. Should have taken out the whole lot, but those guys are pretty tough, so they stuck around. This side we had the Chaos Spawn that was sitting on top of that rock. We had this Demon Prince and 3 other Marines for Slaanesh sitting there. They had a bit of a fight, and the spawn went down, and and the Marines went down as well. So a bit of a even draw there. These units here, Rhino and Soul Grinder, basically tried to take out this Soul Grinder here. That's heavily wounded, sitting there, trying to get into close combat, but Look, it's going to make it into combat, but it's on its last legs. Keeper of Secrets ran from over there up here to take a key position behind this little rocky area just there. So he's sitting there. All these other units through the middle, demonettes and the steeds, chariots, etc., they all just basically ran across the board here and took a position trying to get into close combat with demons. This rhino here ran through the plague bearers, taking out a couple on the way through, but it's fairly exposed there. But that one's full of marines. These ones just here, so they're ready to come out shortly. Over the other side of the board we had the bikers and the other mounted demonettes take out Soul Grinder, this guy here, taken out. And I forgot the deep strikers at the back. We had some Terminators touch down. These guys, they just touched down behind this shrine here, and they tried to fire and take out this predator here, but to no effect. There's also an obliterator just touched down there and also tried to do the same. Took some damage but not taken out, so no doubt he'll turn around and vaporise somebody. We'll have to wait and see. So looks like the Slaanesh side have taken some key positions across the board. Oh look, there was another dreadnought at the back here. It was basically moving up across the board, didn't do anything, couldn't get into range, but they are in, like I said, a key position. So it looks like Nrgle haven't got the numbers, but we do have all that to come out for Nrgle. So that's going to be no doubt on their turn, which is turn 3. You'll have to forgive me, I'm coming down with the flu, or I've had the flu for a while and I can barely speak properly. So anyway, that's what we've got. That's the end of turn 2. We've got turn 3 coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of the first half of turn 3, and everything's out on the table as far as deep striking goes. Over this side of the board, the remaining Nrgle forces have come out. We've had some blight drones come down through there, just out of melee range, so it gives the demonettes there something to think about as far as what they're going to do next turn. Over this side we had some Terminators touch down. They fired into what was a group of Slaanesh Marines, took a few out, and then it got followed up by these guys, which cleaned up that unit completely. So good job, Nrgle. Over this side we had a rhino come flying through that gap there, came through there and collided with this one here, made a big collision, damaging everything, but they are both sitting there facing each other off. Over this side there was a rhino for Slaanesh, got fired upon by those guys and then followed up and assaulted by the plague bearers there, cutting the contents of that rhino down to 6 men. The wounded Soul Grinder went charging from behind that rock, came in and took out a bunch of demonettes. They didn't actually kill it in the end on the way back, but that combat is ongoing and that Soul Grinder's in a lot of trouble because there's a lot of support there for Slaanesh. Anyway, moving up through here, we had a Predator turn around, fire and take out one Terminator. Also, the Terminators were fired upon by these guys here. A lot of those melter weapons doing a lot of damage to those Terminators. Up this side we had Dreadnought fire upon one biker just there, and the Great Unclean one hiding behind this rock here. Also we've got Typhus just hiding behind this group of plague bearers. These guys assaulted some I can't remember the name of their seekers, are they? Always getting messed up on these guys. These things. Cavalry. I find it hard to remember all these models, the names of them. Anyway, they got taken out, assaulted by all that. Anyway, that's where we have it now. It's fairly evenly balanced, a lot for both sides. We've got deep striking units for both sides in play, and over here, so they will basically fire on each other, take each other out, and have one big combat coming out the middle. And then we'll have a storyline element at the end when the contents of this tower, our main heroes, make their way into the mysterious caverns of Myth Drea'Voor. Thanks for watching. Second half of turn 3 coming up shortly. Okay, here we are at the end of the second half of turn 3, Slaanesh's turn. Moving around the board, we had this obliterator here come in and assault that group of plague marines. There was a group of terminators here who assaulted a predator that was sitting there. They got taken out. Moving over this side, this combat was ongoing from last turn. The Slaanesh marines stayed in combat and the Demon Prince came sailing over this little rocky area here, joined the combat and took out a few to even up that melee a little bit. There's a rhino here full to the brim of these plague marines. It got assaulted by Dreadnought, so the rhino's out and these guys are out in play. The rhino here just basically backed up, it got crashed into the front of it, and it basically, it's still got all its contents, all its marines in there, but it just moved back out of play to let the Dreadnought assault in there. Here, this combat here was ongoing, between that and a Soul Grinder for the Nrgle side. Soul Grinder didn't last. Moving over this side of the board, we had two plague marines with jetpacks, Raptors. I will have to look those up. They got fired upon by Predator and unit of Slaanesh Marines. They got taken out completely. Still a group of Nurgle Terminators back here, which didn't get engaged really. We had these units of Demonettes turn around from there and come to look to take out these light drones there, and no doubt take on those Terminators at some stage. These Seekers turned around and came to assault that unit there, but basically didn't make it, fell short. Moving up this side, we've had the Bikers fire upon that Dreadnought there, and some that Dreadnought there firing upon another Chaos Dreadnought, so it didn't get taken out, but injured nonetheless. Keeper of Secrets was on top of this little tower here, ran down the tower and just took a position behind these chariots. Those chariots ran in and took out a whole chunk of plague bearers, so didn't take them all out, but did a lot of damage anyway. So overall it looks pretty well. Slaanesh has got the upper hand, but depends on what they do. The Nrgles do that with these Terminators. What they do, they're in play. We've still got over this side, Great Unclean One, Typhus, haven't even touched the enemy yet, so they're going to cause some damage. So it can go either way. So we've got the turn 4 coming up shortly, at which stage I'll start thinking about what I'm going to do with this tower and the guys within. I think the last turn that I did a little bit of a film clip where the Jacaro at the top here basically identified a little area of cover just behind the entrance to our caverns of Myth Drea'Voor. So I think I'm going to try and move them down there in next turn, hide in there, let these guys duke it out on the table here, and then everyone will basically slip around the corner and then get into the main area. So I finally got my dungeon organised, so I'll be able to start working on that. So that is the end of turn 3. We've got turn 4 coming up shortly. Okay, here we are at the end of the first half of turn 4, and Nrgle have taken out a huge big swathe of their chaos foes. We had this group of Plague Marines just withdraw from combat away from the Obliterator, which then got obliterated by the Dreadnought there, taken out. Then we had this group of Plague Marines step back and fire into there were 4 Terminators there, only 2 remain now, so that was fairly good. Nrgle controlling this area here, pretty much. Moving over this side, in a deft move, this group of Marines, they could have come and reinforced this combat here, but instead went and charged a group of Demonettes and really cut them down, really destroyed a lot of them. There's only a few remaining there, and they didn't lose many casualties. Left the Plague Bearers to fight on their own. They did pretty well. They lost 2 of their number and took out 2 Slaanesh Marines, so that's pretty well evenly weighted there, so good job Nrgle. Over this side there were 2 chariots there that just got charged by all that, and they got taken out, so good job again. And the Great Unclean One decided to take on some bikers, took out 2, and is looking pretty threatening over that side of the board. So nothing over this side. Over here we had Terminators. Now they had to decide on where to go. They had a number of targets. Could have gone there, taken out the Predator, could have taken on those Demonettes, but instead fired upon that unit there, thinned them out, which were then charged by the Blight drones there, which really cut down their numbers. So still looks pretty 50-50 on this side of the board. Probably Slaanesh has got the upper hand, but it's still contested. And over that side, it's pretty much Nrgle, so look, it's even, probably just in the favour of Slaanesh at this stage. They've got their turn coming up, and see what they can do coming up shortly. Second half of turn 4, like I said, coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of turn 4. Slaanesh they really could have shut this game out at this stage, but they really had a few big misses. We'll just move from this side of the board. We had these 2 Terminators here charge in and take out. There were 4 Chaos Nrgle Marines just sitting just there. They took them out, but now they're exposed to an assault by the Dreadnought or that unit over there. Over this side we had a Slaaneshi Dreadnought enter the fray with these Plague Bearers and the Demon Prince. The Plague Bearers stood up, they should have got wiped out, but 3 of those got taken out, and there were 2 Space Marines, Slaanesh Space Marines there, they got taken out too. So that combat continues, but those Nrgle units should, they're not going to last too long. Rhino here basically came from behind this rocky area, drove up this way, still full of Space Marines, so they'll hopefully get spill out somewhere, hopefully to take out those guys. We had Soul Grinder come charging in to help the Demonettes against these Nrgle units here, and a few Demonettes got taken out and a few Marines got taken out. So it's kind of, this Soul Grinder should have really done a lot more than that, but that's how it rolled out. Over this side we had Keeper of Secrets assault the Plague Bearers and Typhus there, took out a few Plague Bearers, and that combat is evenly matched at this stage. Over this side, play for that Dreadnought. There were 3 bikers there, and they thought they'd stay in and take out the Great Unclean One, but he just cleaned up the bikers and really is ready and poised to take out the Dreadnought. So not such a good move there. Moving over this side, we had, this is probably the most anti-climax of the battle, I would say. Firing from the Predator and that unit of Marines there into the Terminators. Not one of them was taken out. That's pretty poor. But anyway, all that las cannon action there. You think it'd do something, but no. There were 4 blight drones sitting there in combat, and all these demonettes, chaos demons from the Slaaneshi variety, just creamed them, took them out. So no more blight drones, but we have Terminators sitting here. What are they going to do? Are they going to go that way, take out the tanks and the heavy armour, or get stuck into the demons over there? We'll have to find out in turn 5, which is just around the corner. So that's where we have it right now. I think Nrgle are struggling a bit. They've been struggling quite a lot for this whole battle. So we'll just have to wait and see if they can recover. 2 turns to go for them. Turn 5 coming up shortly. Okay, here we are at the end of the first half of turn 5, and Nrgle have fought back with a vengeance. We had Dreadnought charge in. There were 2 Terminators there, just powered through those, so they control that area. Over here, we had this group take out a Rhino, popping it open, and seeing the contents there, which are a bunch of Slaanesh Marines. Over here, there was a combat between Dreadnought, and there were 3 Nrgle Plague Bearers, and that Demon Prince there. The 3 Plague Bearers got taken out, and the Demon Prince was as well, so only the Dreadnought remains. Over here there was a group of Demonettes just in there, and the Plague Marines. Plague Marines didn't walk out of combat, they stayed there like you should, and took out the Demonettes but lost half their number, so they're looking pretty threatened there. Over here, the massed numbers of the Plague Bearers and Typhus took out the Demon Prince, not the Demon Prince, the Keeper of Secrets for the Slaanesh side. Over there, the Great Unclean One, heavily wounded. He always looks heavily wounded, but anyway, he took out the Dreadnought that he was fighting with. So Nrgle controlling this area here. Moving down this side, we have the Terminators here. They chose to go after all the Demonettes, absolutely carved heaps out, and lost one of their number. So that has really evened that up over there. So they've done very well. So that's really it. Turn 5, we had a storyline element where we had the dwarf character here come out of the tower, just try to make its way, creep round into the caverns of Myth Drea'Voor, which is going to be in the next couple of battles. So he's made a move there. The rest of the squad, the team, is inside. They'll come out later in a future turn. So that's it for the first half of turn 5. Second half coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of the second half of turn 5. Only one more turn to go. We've seen a few melee combats. Here we had this group of Slaanesh Marines charge into these Plague Marines. Probably not the greatest move to try and get into melee range, but took out a few casualties nonetheless, fairly evenly weighted. Over this side, there were 2 Plague Marines in combat with that Soul Grinder. Soul Grinder decided to just take those guys out, so Now it's freed up to do whatever. This dreadnought fired upon that group of plague bearers, taking 2 out. Moving across this side of the board, we've got the Predator tank, again taking out one of the plague bearers. These guys here just basically moved across the board. They couldn't really engage over there into that melee combat, but they just came over this side. Maybe in the final turn they can fire on somebody. Don't know, they're probably out of play at this stage. Moving over this side, the Terminators for the Nrgle side are holding up really well. There were stacks and stacks of Demonettes here, and Seekers as well. And they've lost 2 Terminators, but I don't know, they must have taken out 20, 30 Demonettes or something, just carving them up. So even though they're outnumbered still, they are looking pretty solid there. So overall, 1 turn to go. We've still got some big units for the Nrgle side, but Slaanesh still have some as well. So there you have it. We've got turn 6 coming up shortly. Okay, here we are. The first half of turn 6 is in the bank, and there's not too much left on the table. I'll give that a run through in a minute. In the storyline narrative component, we had the Inquisitor follow the dwarf out of the tower, tried to sneak in through the side of the gateway there to the cavern. So they're just hiding there, waiting for their opportunity, while everyone else kills each other. Now, looking at what happened here, there was a soul grinder sitting right there, and it got fired upon by Dreadnought over here. This great unclean one was hiding, not hiding, but sitting out there, and really had nowhere to go, couldn't really do anything, so it basically just ran behind this rock to basically sit there. I don't know, had nowhere to go. Anyway, over here, this melee just kept going, and a couple of sides lost a few units. Both sides lost a couple of units. Looks like the Nrgles are going to outlast the Slaanesh Marines, but we'll wait and see. So the Soul Grinder was assaulted by Typhus and the remaining plague bearers there. So they've controlled that area, but Typhus has taken some nasty wounds, and there's some nasty opposition ready to clean those guys up. Over this side, this battle just keeps on going. There's only 2 Terminators left now, a bunch of Demonettes, and they just keep slugging at each other. So no one's really withdrawn from combat yet, but we'll wait and see what the Slaanesh army does in the following turn. So that's what we have now. So fairly evenly weighted. They're Chaos Forces duking it out, waiting to see what our heroes do from that tower. They're going to go into the cavern just there in this last turn. The last half of turn 6 coming up shortly. Well, there we have it. That's the end of turn 6 and the end of battle 6. So, looking at the final results, we have Slaanesh with a victory. We had, over this side of the board, this group of Marines flee from combat, didn't want to get taken out completely. They just moved out because enough was done over this side of the board. We had these 2 units assault Typhus, and there were 3 remaining plague bearers just there. They're gone. We had a lucky shot from the Predator, took out the Dreadnought that was just sitting there. So that was a good move. Over this side, final results of this massive brawl that they've had over here is 1 Terminator remaining, and Slaanesh with a few units as well on their side. So that's ongoing, but all in all, Slaanesh with the upper hand have taken them out. Now, what are we doing now is just doing a bit of a storyline element where I drag the rest of our characters out of here, meet up with our two that are already ready to make their move, sneak around the corner while no one's looking, everyone's looking the other way, and then I can move on with my storyline. So thanks very much for watching. Next week I will keep uploading every week at this stage. One large battle every month and one narrative storyline battle every month. So anyway, hope you're enjoying them, and please subscribe if you can. Thanks. Bye.